So I'm recording this video today that's using this cool app called Solar System Scope. And this is really an incredible app that allows us to look at the actual sky and the actual constellations and the planets as they're laid out in the sky. Now, I'm going to be talking about this upcoming Mercury-Mars um, alignment where Mercury is going to be going retrograde over Mars, or retrograde past the degrees of Mars. You see, this is the astrological chart. This is on actually May 19th. So let me move this forward. I'm recording this on May 24th. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. You see Mercury's moving retrograde back toward Mars degree. Mercury is 1749. Mars is 1456. If we go the 25th, 26th, 27th, now you see Mercury passes Mars going retrograde on the 27th. So the way this looks in the sky, this is May 24th right here. And I'm going to go up here and so we can see, well, I'll just go from above. It's kind of interesting. So you see this is Mercury and it's going to pass Mars when we move this forward. You see Mercury's moving this way, 25, 26, 27, and we see it passes it in longitude 28. If we go underneath, we can see it as well. If we go back to the 24th, you see it was here. And again, it's from our sight line. If we draw a line from here, it's when it passes the middle and goes past it that way. So what I want to show is I want to illustrate 25, 26, 27, and you see it's now moving past it. If we keep going, you can see now it's in front, whereas here it was behind. See, Mars was in front of it, or I'm sorry, it's actually the reverse. Mars was behind it. Now Mercury is behind it when we go here. You can see how it's moved, especially like by there. So what I want to show and what I want to also illustrate, and I want to disagree with people that I hear saying that this is going to be a very hard time for untangling difficulties or recent difficulties in communication with people. What happened is if we go back about a month earlier, I'm going to just advance this back and you'll see what happened about a month earlier. This is May 8th when Mercury was here. This is May 2nd when Mercury was here. If we go back into April 23rd, Mercury was there. And if we pop this up, we can also see the constellations. Here's Aries. Here is Taurus right there. You see it on different sides of the... If we go back to like at around this time, I'm going to move it up here. Around this time, Mercury was moving past Mars. It was doing the same. It was passing Mars, moving forward, and you see Mercury is all the way on the other side of the sun now. You see? And this is combust on the other side of the sun. And if we look at the chart at that time, this is April 15th. If we go back to April 15th, April 15th looked like this in the sky. Mercury was 8, Mars was 17, and Mercury was on the other side of the sun moving forward about to pass Mars. So the way that looks in the sky is Mercury is on the other side of the sun about to pass Mars. So when we go forward here, see it's passing Mars now on the 17th. Again, it's about the sight line to, if we were to draw a line from Earth to Mars, this is what it's passing. Right? Because Earth is going here, this is going there, and Mercury's going to pass it. 18, 19, here's the moon now. So on April 19th, we have the moon is also in line. So let's look at April 19th. 19, okay, there's the moon. This was the new moon. Mercury, Mars. See, Mercury hasn't passed it yet, but the moon is also there, April 19th. Let's see when Mercury passes Mars, you can still see it's not there yet because the Earth has to swing around this way as Mercury passes it. 20, 21, looks like maybe close, 22. Let's see now on the 22nd. 1, that's the 22nd. That's the 23rd. Mercury has passed Mars on the 23rd. And we can see that using the app on the 23rd. Mercury has clearly passed Mars. But it's on the other side of the sun where Mercury is combust, but he's not retrograde. So this is why there's the rule that when Mercury or Venus are combust and retrograde, which they always are when they are retrograde, they always then become combust as well, but they're combust closer to the Earth. So when they're retrograde and combust, the combustion becomes much less important, and in fact it just becomes very purifying, because that's what combustion does. It tends to purify a planet, but it tends to purify it by creating like angry and embarrassing situations when it's especially the outer planets. But the inner planets of Mercury and Venus, when they go retrograde and combust, they're closer to the Earth, and it's an inner purification that's happening because the planet is closer to the Earth at that time. So again, you compare this transit of Mercury passing Mars on the other side of the sun. This could have been a time in early mid-April from all of this time forward, because this whole time, and I could just move the time forward by using Mercury. You see, that's a great thing about this app, is you can just move the time forward by grabbing a planet. Well, now it's not doing it. Okay. And you see, you can just move it forward by that planet. And now we're going to be here again. You can see how, this is April 12th, and you can see now here it passes Mars, and now here we are, May. Mercury started to go retrograde on the 16th, which was right here. It starts to slow down. Now it's retrograde, retrograde, retrograde. Now we're right here on the 24th. And then it's going to line up exactly, because if you draw this line from here to Mars, you see it doesn't pass it until a little tricky here. Doesn't pass it until, come on. Oh. Yeah, it doesn't pass it until the 26th. Let me just go back there. Yeah, so on the 27th, 28th, we said it passed it. But here, this retrograde Mercury is now, from here on, now it's closer to the Earth. It's inside the orbit of the Earth and the Sun. This is why retrograde planets become introspective forces. Because they're closer to the Earth and they become internal forces, you see? Internalized forces. This was the new moon, because you can see the moon is now between the Earth and the Sun. This is what happens on a new moon. New moon, Mercury's retrograde. This was the new moon that happened. This was May 19th. If we go to May 19th, let's go to May 19th. We can see this. Yeah, this is when we had, this was, because the moon was between the Earth and the Sun, and Mercury was retrograde. That was May 19th. So that was also happening. Mercury's retrograde. All these planets are in between the Sun and the Earth, right? You can also see the Saturn opposition. And this past week, we were dealing with this Saturn-Sun opposition. We were just dealing with that as well. You can see Saturn has been opposite the Sun and Mars, because this is a sign of Scorpio, and you see these planets are in Taurus. If we spin this around, you can see Saturn is in Scorpio, and again, here's Scorpio right here. Everything is being seen from our vantage point on Earth. When we're looking at Saturn, we're looking into Scorpio. When we're looking at Venus, for instance, we're looking at, Gemini. If we were to spin this around and look at Venus, you can see Venus is in Gemini. There's a constellation of Gemini. So again, all of this is being perceived from our vantage point on Earth. And here on May 24th, Mercury is in between the Earth and the Sun. Mars is on the other side of the Sun. So as this continues this week, and since Mercury has gone retrograde, it's been a time for us to introspect and unravel some of the difficulties that happened when Mercury was here and going through this time when he, especially early mid-April and around the end of April, Mercury started going retrograde around here, and then we're like right here now. And a lot of people are saying that as this aspect closes between Mercury and Mars, as Mercury goes retrograde over Mars this week, which is what I started saying at the beginning, Mercury goes retrograde over Mars this week, it's going to be a time where we could have a lot of communication explosions. That's possible if you're unconscious, but if you introspect, which is what we are supposed to be doing, this is actually a great time to go back. My feeling is it's a great time to go back and repair some communication damage that not only that recently happened, but that has happened maybe even over the last few years, because Mercury hasn't gone retrograde over Mars for quite a while. So we want to find the last time Mercury went retrograde over Mars. We have to go back. So here's Mercury, here's Sun, Earth, Mars opposition, and now we're going to see Mercury come in between them, be like right around here, something around this time, would have been around March 2013, something like that, because now you see Mercury is in between the Sun and the Earth, and Mars is opposite. So been around here, we would have seen it. Actually, here we see February 26th, 2013, Mercury and Mars are like 25 degrees of Aquarius. Mercury's just gone retrograde over Mars. So that was the last time. So you may even find yourself revisiting situations or relationships that happened around that time, things that came into your field of consciousness around that time also, that could be ripe for the untangling right now. So this is a very important way to understand the sky. I really recommend people get this app. It's called Solar System Scope. You can download it on your computer for $10. This is a fantastic tool for anyone learning astrology. Again, you can even just notice, like if you look at the solar system from above, suddenly you don't see any of the constellations along the ecliptic. You have to pull this thing down along the ecliptic to see why we have, Taurus and Gemini and Cancer, because they are the constellations that exist on the ecliptic. You can spin things around and really understand why things look the way they look. Here's the Saturn-Mars opposition. Saturn is on one side of the Earth. Mars is on the other side of the Earth. Hello? This is why I use South Indian chart, because it's astronomically correct all the time. So those of you who think, well, but the North Indian chart shows houses, yes, but that's not the sky. If you imagine the Earth is in the middle, this is the sky. Saturn is on one side of the Earth, Mars is on the other. This Sun, Mercury, Mars is on the other side, just like you see in the sky, right? When you're looking at Venus, you see the constellation of Gemini, just like here. You're looking at Venus, constellation of Gemini. So this chart style is superior in so many ways, in my opinion. It's not even an issue, or there's not even a question as to why, because you can perceive the sky correctly. And this app also has things where you can see the large stars. It has settings where you can look at the major stars. So if you know the major stars, like Aldebaran is actually Rohini, and we also have Betelgeuse is Ardra, and so there's all kinds of important information that you can get in this app. So it's really cool. But anyway, I wanted to do this video because I really think that now is a good time to untangle a lot of recent communication problems, because this retrograde motion, Mercury going retrograde over Mars, is a good time to undo a lot of the issues that started back in April. Well, actually, they started even before that. You see, back around this time, this was when Mercury was in Pisces and joined the South Node, and then it goes into Aries, and it's joined Mars, and then it crosses Mars, and then it goes into Taurus, and then Mars enters Taurus, and then Mercury goes back retrograde over Taurus again. But now it's gone retrograde. Retrograde, you can see why it's a time to introspect. You can see because Mercury is closer to the Earth when it's retrograde. So it's between us and the sun. So it's an introspective force. You're going to see later in the year, Mercury is going to pass Mars again in Gemini. That's going to happen later in the year, right around here. In the middle of July, because you can see, if you draw this line, keep drawing the line now from Earth to Mars, you're going to see there's going to be quite a bit of distance put between them. You see, Mercury and Mars are now far apart, but then they get closer together. You see, Mercury's faster, so it's going to overtake it again. This will be, Mercury will pass Mars in Gemini later in the year, and you see Venus about to turn retrograde. Venus is going to turn retrograde. This is going to happen later in the summer. So you can see how these things work astronomically. You can see why when planets are retrograding combust, because Venus is also combust at this point, but it's retrograding combust, you can see why it's still more powerful than if Venus is on the other side of the sun, like it is here. Venus is combust here, but it's opposite the sun. Venus is combust here, but it's between the sun and the earth. That's why retrograding combustion at the same time supports the inner dimension of the planet. Just like we're looking at right now, Mercury is retrograding combust. So it helps us to unravel a lot of the recent problems with the combust Mars, with the Mercury passing Mars in Aries, Mars dominating Mercury in Aries after Mercury was debilitated. There's a lot of difficulty with Mercury, especially like you can also see right here, if you want to use the outer planets, Mercury was not only debilitated, it was joined Neptune, confusing communication style. Then it goes into Aries, it passes Mars, Mars really burns it up. Now goes retrograde, and we can work with that energy with a little more creativity, because we're being introspective, and then we're trying to work with that with someone else. So see how it goes. Of course, if you're still feeling really angry and triggered, then don't try to communicate. But I've actually seen in my life recently some relationships from the past that had some of these components have a lot more space and a lot more openness to unravel and untangle the difficulty associated with the cutting communication or the confusing communication, then the cutting communication that happened when Mercury was in Pisces and then in Aries. So I hope this has been helpful.